Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Could I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Laird,
Present.
Commissioner Milne,
Here.
Commissioner Nicolason,
Here.
Commissioner North,
Here.
and Chairman Frio.
Here. Could we do the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. I'm going to defer over to Commissioner Nicolason for a proclamation on 2023 International Museum Day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we need a representative to come up? Great.
How does this add up to 47,000?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you very much. My name is...
That one's overpowering.
We're going to take up a project for a new town.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, my name is John Woodward. I'm the organizer for the Museums of Casper. We're a new organization that is organizing and to work to improve the museum community here in the Casper and Natrona County area. We're replacing the formerly defunct Casper Museum Consortium. And over the last few months, we've been working to improve lines of communication and promotion for our museum community here in Natrona County, which is arguably the best in the state. We have representation of a number of different museums, art, science, history, natural history. You can find more museums here in the oil city than you can in the capital city. So May 18th is International Museum Day. It's a day recognized by a group called the International Council of Museums, ICOM, as a day to get out and visit and appreciate the museums in your community. So the proclamation that we have submitted recognizes not only the strength of our museum community here in Natrona County, but encourages our local residents to get out and visit the museums that are part of their community. I'm joined by members of our museum community here today. They would people who are individuals who work and help advocate for our museums here in Natrona County. So I appreciate the opportunity to present this proclamation and encourage you all to visit your local museums.
Very good, and thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for those of the museum community to come tonight. And on behalf of the Natrona County Board of Commissioners, I wanted to read the 2023 International Museum Day Proclamation. Whereas Natrona County is home to numerous museums, art galleries, and historic sites, and whereas these institutions promote the study and appreciation of history, art, material culture, and the natural world, and whereas they contribute to the quality of life enjoyed by the people of Natrona County through their exhibits, activities, and programs, and whereas these institutions are a valuable partner to our public schools and Casper College by providing unique educational opportunities, and whereas they share our region's unique history, culture, and landscape with visitors coming from around the world, and whereas the International Council of Museums has designated May 18th as International Museum Day, now therefore be it resolved that the Natrona County Board of Commissioners do hereby recognize the museums, art galleries, and historic sites of Natrona County for their contributions to our county and encourage residents of Natrona County to visit these institutions and sites. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Now stand there for photo. Take your photo. Don't ever come up. Where are the kids?
Okay, moving on the agenda, could I get for a movement on approval of the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would move for the approval of the consent agenda with the exception of item H, Resolution 1123, approving 307 Horse Racing, Inc. to conduct parimutuel wagering live horse racing. And I think that's it.
I'll second that.
So movement's been made by Commissioner Nicolason and a second by Commissioner North, and this will be removing letter H off. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll come back to item H.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to table Resolution 11-23, approving 307 Horse Racing, Inc. to conduct parimutuel wagering, live horse racing, historic horse racing, and simulcast events within Natrona County, Wyoming, and table that to the 16th of this month.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Milne to table that to the 16th of May. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nicolason. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. I'm now going to request a motion to remove the tabled liquor license from 3/21/2023 from the table.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion to remove that tabling.
Motion's been made by Commissioner North,
Second.
second by Commissioner Milne. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the application for new retail liquor license, Taven LLC, doing business as Mile High Tight Ends. Hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes, rules of the Natrona County Commission, and other applicable laws. May I have a report from the Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I don't have anything further to report at this time, so I will either defer back to the county attorney or back to the commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the new retail liquor license to approach the lectern.
Good evening.
Could you state your name and address for us?
Yep. Justin Lavin. I'm at 2011 Nottingham Drive here in town. I came today on behalf of Anthony. I've known him for about 20 years, since he was a line cook at Sidelines. I think he's going to run a great business up there as far as food. I would like to see some diversity in our community as far as what we have for restaurants. I don't drink much. That's not really my thing, but doesn't mean that I don't think he should have a liquor license and run a true, clean sports bar either. So I would like to just be here in favor of him and support him, and hopefully we can get another place to go eat and have lunch and dinner and have a drink if we want to, so. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it your understanding that Anthony is an owner in this enterprise?
Yes,
Thank you.
and sole owner, as far as I'm aware. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Good evening.
Alan Holmes, 740 2nd Street in Evansville. I've known Tony and Jesse for quite a while now. Our relationship started within the softball community, and Tony's been really good to me ever since then. So I'm coming here to vouch and say that Tony would have a really successful business, and it would be really helpful having a liquor license as well underneath the sports bar.
Okay, Commissioner Nicholas.
Thanks for coming tonight. Is it your understanding that Tony is an owner in this enterprise?
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Teresa Macmillan. I live at 1236 South Jefferson Street in Casper. Tony is actually my brother, so we've known each other our whole lives. He's been an amazing cook. He's always wanted to be his own boss, and I believe him and Jesse will run a really good establishment. And I'm not much of a drinker, but I know other people, friends and family, that would enjoy to have something to drink with their dinner. He's an amazing cook, and I think he deserves this opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Anthony and Jesse Macmillan, 1760 Glendale Avenue. I don't know if this was when we were supposed to come up or not, sir, but
If you're talking in favor of, yeah. This is
Okay.
it. Yep.
we're definitely talking in
Okay.
favor of. Again, another 2 weeks has passed. We're back here in front of you guys, pretty much at this point begging you for this opportunity. I mean, besides my word, there's nothing else. I brought more documentation, receipts that we've spent to date on getting this business up and started. I brought in our Clover sales reports from last year, our sales tax reports, just to prove to you guys that we have been doing this ourselves this whole time. We want to take this next step. I mean, this means the world to us. Without this, I mean, I'm out $41,000 and no job. My family will lose everything we have. I've made myself available if anybody had any questions. Nobody's really called me, asked me. I've reached out. I try to, get this stuff resolved and answer any questions anybody will have. And again, I mean, we're kind of in a tighter straight now. It's a lot of money that we put out, a lot of money that, we spent a long time saving to get to this point. And I mean, there's a lot of misled information going on Facebook. I'm not a part of any of that, okay? I don't believe in drugs. I don't believe in prostitution. I'm not doing business with Mr. Pilcher any longer since the bar closed. This is mine and my wife's, and also the future of our children. I mean, one of the news articles on Facebook said that my menu items had sexually suggestive names. You all sat up here and read that menu. I have no names besides what the actual items are. I mean, we have been bashed. Now we want to go and we want to open up and prove to everybody that we're legit and that we plan on working our tails off to bring something good to Casper and to Natrona County. Something I've done for numerous people in this town. The whole thing was talking about I've worked for Sonny. I worked for John Johnson. I worked for Justin Bolts. I worked for the Uverys. I worked for a lot of families in this town. And I spent a lot of time doing this. This is my life. This is my future. This is what I've done my whole life. Now is my opportunity to do this for my family and work hard and get more of the rewards for us instead of doing it for others. So, I appreciate your time, gentlemen.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Two people have got up and said that you're the owner, but our paperwork shows that your wife is the owner.
My wife is technically the legal owner, yes, sir.
But you're not an owner, and if you're part of a corporation, you should probably check with your lawyer about whether your name should be on that application.
Which I definitely can do.
Because I'll ask the county attorney that's sitting there, who does it show the sole owner of this lease and who's asking for this license?
The lease has Taven LLC, signed by Jesse McMillan, and the Secretary of State lists Ms. McMillan as the sole owner of the LLC.
Mrs. McMillan?
Ms. McMillan.
So it doesn't show that Mr. McMillan owns anything?
Correct.
You know, like I told you at the last meeting, I was a heavy smoker. I'm getting up in age. I figured if something was to happen to me, setting this business up in my wife's name, which was done over a year ago, was probably the smartest thing to do.
I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning what people believe out there in the audience. Sometimes they don't believe the right thing. But-
Okay, well, technically, yes, my wife is the true owner.
But the law requires if you have more than a 10% interest in an LLC, your name should be on one of the owners to get the license.
Okay.
I don't make that law. The legislature makes that law. So,
And when we set it up, I was unaware of that.
yeah, I believe that. I'm just telling you what the law requires.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the McMillans? Commissioner Nicholas.
The question is for you, Mrs. McMillan. On the lease, it says that the lessor, Richard Becker, has the right to sell alcohol on the premises if his liquor license is in order. What does that mean?
That he's allowing us to sell liquor on the premises if we acquire the liquor license.
He would be the lessor. Do you know if Mr. Becker, as your landlord, is going to be operating a liquor license out of that same establishment?
As far as we know, no.
Is that, can you explain why it says lessor?
It might be a typo on the lease agreement.
It's your understanding that that the license we're talking about tonight is the only liquor license that would be operated from that premises?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
It's just the one that I guess technically Jesse
I
applied for.
My only comment is, as a lawyer, you probably should have had a lawyer look at some of this stuff, because when we look at this, we have to follow what these documents say. We just can't excuse, because you're a nice guy and we know what your intent is, but we have to follow what the law requires of us to do. I'm sure you understand that.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
And
sir.
I did reach out to a few attorneys.
Yeah. well,
Everybody's busy or wouldn't even call us back.
Well, that's an issue going on in Casper now in a lot of areas. I understand that too.
But we did, like I said, we have reached out to numerous attorneys.
I just recall something, Mr. Chairman. The last meeting, you were going to bring in a document that, where you agreed to certain stipulations. Do you remember that?
I believe everything was tabled to find the legalities of that. And I actually went down to the county attorney's office yesterday to see if that was ready and review it, which at that point I was told that it was not.
What do you think that the county attorney was supposed to do that wasn't ready?
We were under the impression you were going to have the papers drawn up and something for us to sign.
And that in the meantime, in the last 2 weeks, that you guys were checking on the legalities of that, of putting stipulations on the liquor license?
Well, the ones that you would agree to. You recall what you said you would agree to?
Yes, that we would not, or that Sonny Pilcher was absolutely to have nothing to do with it financially, invest, work, whatever, and that also that we would not be a strip club.
And you agree to that?
I do.
Does your wife agree to that?
Yes, sir.
And would you be willing to forego your retail liquor license in the event of noncompliance with those agreements?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And would you be willing to put that in writing?
Now, are you asking us to put it in writing this time, just so we're all on the same page?
If we're going to do this gig, it's got to be in writing, and you've got to sign it, and it's got to be under oath.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that would be what I would say as a lawyer, because we don't want anybody having any misunderstandings here.
Right. And I think that we might have misunderstood at the last meeting. Again, we were under...
I understand that, and these are not matters that are easily understood by people who don't do them all the time either, so I understand that. And it's our job to be fair with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the McMillans? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any others to speak in favor of the new retail liquor license? Please approach the lectern.
Yes, my name is Sonny Pilcher. I live at 1136 South Walnut. You know, this all started with an inspector stopping by when I was helping Tony build a bar top. And all I was doing was helping a friend, and it's escalated into this. I have nothing to do with this financially. I'm not loaning him any money. I'm not running it in any way. You know, and this is kind of being blamed on RACS, which, you know, RACS ran for 18 years. It was approved right here. It didn't have one single citation against it in 18 years. I have never had one. Tony's never had one. I don't know what this deal is with RACS exactly or what it is with me, but as far as selling drugs or promoting prostitution, you could ask the lady that's the head of the Department of Justice in this state what Sonny Pilcher has done for the federal department in this state. And it sure as hell isn't selling drugs or promoting prostitution. I guess that's all I got to say unless you have a question.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Pilcher?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Pilcher, thanks for coming tonight. You could have not shown up, so I think that does say something. I just want to ask you, what about that social media post from you apparently that said you had ownership or this was going to be my new place? I don't have it in front of me, but do you know the one I'm referring to?
I know what you're referring to.
Can you explain that once and for all to this commission?
There was somebody that danced there 12 years ago, and she had heard that RACS was closing. You know, I'm not really into this social media thing, so I saw her name on there, and I told her that I would get her picture to her, but I was working on a new place. I didn't say anything about I owned anything, nothing, just that I was busy working on a new place.
Any other questions of Mr. Pilcher?
I do, I have one. Mr. Pilcher, you know, it would be sad if these two young people have not told us the truth. And we find out about it, because then we would have to take whatever legal action is necessary. And so, nobody's forcing you to say anything here? Nobody's forcing you to sign anything? I think you did sign something though, didn't you?
I did.
And nobody forced you to do that? You did that on your own?
I did that on my own.
And you brought it down, I think, to the clerk, and what did that say exactly?
Basically that what I've said here tonight, I don't have anything I don't own it, and I don't have any financing in it, I don't have anything along those lines.
You know that people have spoken against this. I see them here tonight. What's the reason they're speaking against this and saying to us what they believe is that you're really behind this bar?
I have no idea, other than Tony's my friend, and I was up there helping build a bar top, and the inspector showed up, and then he ran downtown and told everybody I had something to do with it, which I didn't have anything to do with it other than helping him. I've been a carpenter my whole life. I'm promoting him in a way that I hope he does well. I do. And I don't understand in any way how come he is so associated with me when there is I've never been charged with anything. Absolutely nothing. And,
Concerning the bar.
Concerning the bar. I could explain the other thing to you too, and
Well, you might as well do it. You're out here in front of the public, you might as well get it all explained.
All right. What's it?
It's not relevant.
They're saying it's not relevant, so that's a good thing.
Well, I'd like to tell it.
It's not relevant.
It's not relevant, it's not relevant.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Pilcher.
Is that
Any
all?
other questions of Mr. Pilcher? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of?
My name is Linda Hallcrab. I was in real estate 45 years. By default, I ended up running a construction company for 6 years. I've known Sonny since clear back in time, like I've known a few of you up there. I've had a lot of stories. I've heard a lot of stories, and hearsay is one of the things that hurts the most. I'm just going to make one comment. I've known Tony. I've known a lot of contractors. I've known a lot of good contractors. I've known some that I wouldn't hire again. But everyone deserves a chance to stand on their own and be in their own process. Now, Tony's a little light on the legalities. And I had taken some time because being in real estate and having run a construction company as the first woman contractor in the state, I have a pretty strong background. So I told him that he needed a lawyer, and I was trying to help him, and everybody in town's busy, everybody in the state's busy. But Sonny helped me in ways that are hard to tell you. And I had a family that almost died. And Sonny gave me his truck, his workmen, because I had to move them to Colorado. So I know two sides to everybody. And I just want Tony to have a fair chance, and I think he really needs the proper information, which I feel you gentlemen have done today. So I compliment you greatly, and I compliment everyone, and I hope everyone can do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of?
I guess after listening all this time. Judy Jones, Natrona County resident. I think you guys are right on this. I think, Dallas, you got a point, get it in writing, get the paperwork straightened out, so that if that doesn't turn out to be what you think it is, that you have a recourse. Other than that, I don't think we have a right to stand in the way of this young couple opening in a business. So that's it.
Anyone else to speak in favor of? All right, at this time, I'd ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the new retail liquor license to please approach our lectern.
Good evening. My name's Dave Kalinowski. I live at 2202 East Haven. I'm a member of this community for 42 years, raised 7 kids here, and of the 7, 6 are still here, and we have 20 of our 25 grandchildren here. I guess my concern is not that it's a restaurant. That's kind of new emphasis. And some of the comments previously about that sex sells and we won't see anything that you won't see on Sandy Beach, things like that. If all it is a restaurant and they want to have a liquor license, that's one thing. But it appears that they may have other motives or have other desires. And I think just like you guys, all of you, I'm concerned about the legacy I leave for my children and my grandchildren, the kind of community that we've tried to build here. And we don't need a strip club. We don't need sex sells. We can always use a good restaurant. But I think as the previous lady mentioned, I think we have to be very, very clear on the specifications of what this establishment really is going to be, and that there would be a recourse for all of you to be able to monitor that, and I think that that's really important for our community. And so you guys have this great responsibility, but it's also a great privilege to help keep this community, the kind of community that we want our kids to grow up in and our families. And I think that's it.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to?
Good evening, guys. You guys need to know name and address again. Randy Elliott, 6263 White Deer Trail. Kind of like to just go back to, some of the things that were brought up by Dallas's questions to the couple guys that we're talking about. That, Pete, I think you asked it too, that, can you hear me? That, who's the sole owner? Well, I think it just seems like there's a lot of deception with this pair. And not just Tony and his wife, but with Sonny Pilcher. We've had a lot of deception and, talking about that he's never run an establishment with prostitution. Well, let's put a term on that, or a definition on prostitution. I think we know what went on at Rax, and I know there was a lot of stuff beyond just the little ladies stripping and peeling out their clothes out there. So there was a lot more to go on over there, along with the drugs that went through there, and the incident with the guy running through town and with his vehicle. I don't remember the guy's name, but this was a few years ago, all tied in with that. Again, it just seems to be a lot of deception. I think every single one of you guys up here had your initial gut feeling. I've always said, your gut feeling leads you in the right direction. If I'm looking down a dark alley and something's telling me not to go down that alley because I might be getting jumped by somebody, I go with that. I call it the Holy Spirit. And me, in my opinion, when people are in tune with Jesus Christ, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody else. This is my logo. I paid for it. I made it. It's called Stand Your Ground, and it's based on a scripture. And when we start veering away from God's word and running establishments like what has been ran by both of these guys, you're sitting there thinking that somebody can change. Well, where do we see that change? Has it, we come right up here and people are believing, and Tony's saying that he's the owner. Well, why is he putting it in his wife's name? Why the deception? Why are we leading off onto that track? If he's owning it, the other thing is I do have that little thing from Facebook that Sonny posted. Anybody want to look at it? I have it. I don't know if anybody has it, but it's pretty clear. It says, Sonny says, I'm going to get you the picture. I've got a new place going. It's called Mile High Tide Ends. I'm busy as shit, but I've sent you a picture. I've got a place. Come on. He didn't say Tony's getting a place. He didn't say Tony's wife's getting a place. So you can stand up here. In my opinion, there's a lot of lies that go up on the stand. A lot. Personally, I believe probably 20%. But again, when you got that history, let's just go back to the history of all that. And it's all cycling right in to Mile High Tide Ends. As Mr. Kalinowski said, hey, you can run a fine little restaurant over there, serve a couple drinks. I go up to Fire Rock. That's a pretty nice establishment. So is Jay's. But I will tell you, there's no flesh running around. There's the spirit of that's not running around. And, I've got a 16-year-old kid, not far from being 21. I also have probably 36 great-grand nieces and nephews, all in this community. I can tell you, if you guys got kids, is that where you want them? Do you want them to be hearing about, because I guarantee you, they've already, my 16-year-old boy's already heard about this. Because I've raised him right, he's not perfect. He's made comments on the name alone and who's running this establishment and who's associated with it. So, brother, I've heard also that my talking right now, Mr. Kalinowski's talking, I don't know if this is true, but you guys have already made your decision. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, I'm not 100% sure why I would be here speaking or why Mr. Kalinowski would be here speaking. There's a few people that didn't show up that surprised me because I was told that they were told that it's a done deal. You got enough people in this community, I think, and I think the majority of them are sitting over here, that are opposed. Some people are a little afraid to get up and stand up and talk, but I think the people like Mr. Kalinowski and myself and my sister Pryor have enough heart and enough bravery and enough stand your ground in them to oppose this 100%.
Anybody have any questions for Randy?
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, Rosemary Saban, 9460 West Sarah Road. May Judy, she thought of a couple other questions. May she ask you, or do I need to ask?
I'd rather you ask, because I bent the rules last week and that bit me, so we're not doing that again.
Is it that Tony possibly has a criminal record, and that's why it's not in his name? If that's a question you could ask him. And
Anyway, start with that one, and I'll think about it.
well, I can only be up here for.
Okay. Ask her.
Oh, he's willing to swear under oath and sign any documentation that you want. Okay.
Because I think you guys have it set there. If they're willing to sign the documents saying that if they're not doing what they're doing, not going to do what they say they're doing, that you could pull their liquor license. I was just wondering if Tony possibly has a past criminal record that keeps him from applying for a liquor license, or if that has anything to do with it at all. It's just a question.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to?
Could you guys ask him that?
No, we're on the opposition. We've already gone through 4, so in opposition.
I think it's important.
My name's Courtney Reynolds. Address is 10302 Ridgeview in Evansville. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Dave said also and what Randy said. I have 9 kids. You know, they're all, my oldest is just about 14. They're coming up to the age too that I don't want them to be exposed to any of this crap. You know, I just don't, sorry, can you hear me okay? I don't want this. What's that? Oh. I don't want my kids to be around any of this. You know, I grew up with racks, cowboys, all of that, and I mean, I knew all the stuff that was going on there. I don't want my kids being around that or exposed to that. I also have a question about with Randy's comment, seeing that Sonny blatantly on social media, Facebook, said that it was his place. So while you guys are having him sign an affidavit that he's not a part of it, what happens when, I mean, come to find out that he's lying, that he signed this, and turns out later that he does have a part of it. What happens then? That's my question. I mean, because, I mean, he can sign this affidavit, he can lie, he has been proven and known to lie in the past about his involvement in things. So I guess I just don't trust what he's, even him signing an affidavit, I don't feel confident trusting that on my end. I don't know if you guys feel comfortable with that, but I know he's proven in the past that it's, you know, he's lied, he's gone against his word. The partnership between Sonny and Tony has, I mean, it speaks for itself. They've a long record with each other. So I guess I just have a hard time believing that he's not going to have anything to do with it. And that's the big problem that I have. Thank you.
Anyone else who wants to speak in opposition to?
Good evening. My name is Kathy Hickel. I live at 1908 Lilac Street. I have been a citizen of this fine city since I was a young girl. I've watched changes grow. I've watched changes happen that were detrimental to Natrona County, to our city, to our children. I'm not one who says that someone is guilty by association, but Tony has admitted himself that he has not only worked for Sonny in an establishment that was questionable, he's also been groomed by him. So my question is do we really need another bar in this town that would promote sexual exploitation of women? In Tony's quote, there will be cleavage and miniskirts. If they need sex to sell their alcohol or their food, then what is he really selling? Like Randy said, we can go to any restaurant here in town and enjoy a fine dinner, and wine or alcohol or whatever their drink of choice is, but does it have to be distastefully served? If the girls want to and choose to dress like that to earn a living, that's totally their prerogative. But given the history of all of the problems that Rex created, whether the rumors of drug dealing, prostitution, promotion, not setting that aside, but what kind of environment does a place like that bring to our community? What do they really have to say in what they're serving. Are they serving alcohol and food, or are they serving something else? So I am in a position, not because Tony has anything to do with Sonny Pilcher or not, because that has pretty much been established here, and you're going to make him sign under oath that Sonny has absolutely nothing to do with this. But the problems that occurred at Rex and those, shootings, biker gangs, people like that, is this something really that's going to promote our community, or is it going to be detrimental? It's up to you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Veronica White, and I live at 2110 Mandan Trail. And I am in opposition to this. I believe that this bar is going to bring us the wrong type of element into our city, into our county. We need to protect the women who work there and the women of our county. We also need to hold these men accountable for what they do from now on. And also, I would urge this commission to tread very carefully on making decisions about this. Because if Rax was any type of example of what can happen, then I believe this is going to happen with this establishment.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ricky Elliott, 1515 Eastbrook. When I was here before, Mr. Friel, I believe it was you, and I'm not going to point out one of you, said if we caught wind that Sonny was going to be involved in this, and I think you were as well, and we stood up here again and said to our God, he said if he caught wind that there was any part of him going to be in it, it was over. Now you've got Tony not having a liquor license, his wife will own the liquor license. So what he has to say in it, she should be saying, seeing as she's going to be owning, even as a woman business owned. I work for women business owned companies, and Mexican owned and minority owned, all my life. So you will respect that I respect my God that I put my heart on. I love my heart, I love my God. And I love the people. I pray for Sonny. I pray for these families that have been through turmoil in those businesses. I pray for my brother. I'm not here on a bitter act, but it's what you said the last time we were here. If there was wind of it, it's over because it's on, you're elected. So it's on you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Anyone else to speak in opposition to? All right, there being no others to speak for or against the new retail liquor license, I now declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion?
Do we give our opinions first?
No.
We don't do it that way?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license for discussion.
Motion's on the floor by Commissioner Nicolason to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it because I want to have a discussion.
Second's been made by Commissioner Laird. All in favor? Well, nope. Stop. Discussion.
You want me to start, Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Laird.
So, I've been in I don't know how many cases over the 52 years I've been a lawyer, and I don't think I've ever been in a case where the two sides agreed with each other. If you went to court, the two sides disagreed. And usually the two sides were good people on both sides. But not during that court fight, they weren't. And they would say things that they believed, and the other side would say things they believed, and then some dispassionate people had to try to figure out if there was a truth to any of it. So when I hear something like this, what I say to myself, I have to ask myself, why did the people come and speak in favor of this? What is their motive? Did they have friends on that side? What is the motive? And the people that come and speak against it, I'm going, well, who asked them to come, and why did they speak against it? What was their motive? And I don't know. I don't know what their motive is. I know that about 95% of the discussion is about Sonny Pilcher and not about the two people who applied. And I can understand the legalities and all of this, that people generally don't do a very good job of being their own attorney either. So I can understand why some of this paperwork isn't in the order that I would prefer. And I believe that the couple own it, and that Tony's name should be on it, and those things can be amended. The biggest problem I have with this whole thing is, truthfully, I don't want a prostitution and gambling and sex and all of that in this bar. There isn't a man sitting at this table that does. So then what I have two people who say they'll sign an affidavit, and they will put the restriction on themselves. Because we're not forcing them to do that. That's why I asked them the questions. And if they do that, the authority of the commission is that if they violate what they've told us, we do have grounds at some point to revoke that license. And so, but what is the truth of all of this, really? That we should hold something against the guy and his wife who want a place just because of who he knows or doesn't know? Or what should we really judge this on? Because we have a lot of judgments to make in this job. And I'll have to admit, there's a part of me that doesn't like doing it because we've got another hearing coming up, and I know people on both sides, and I like them all. And so what we're trying to do is the best job we can for our community to keep things lawful and decent and law-abiding, and knowing what's going on in our country. Now we have gambling in Wyoming. Pretty soon we'll probably have sale of marijuana in Wyoming. We can't live in our cave forever, I guess, but we asked the county attorney to do some research. It's not illegal to have a striptease bar in the United States of America. So we have to take a look at, is this a legitimate application? And it's an application for a new license. Now, what the law says is that we can deny a new application
for a license if we think certain things. And I have to tell you, I'm confused. I'm not willing to say anybody that testified in here didn't tell me the truth. I'm not a moralist. I don't think I was hired and voted on by you to be a moral judge of anybody. I think those of you who voted for me want me to be fair to the people, regardless of who they are, who they've known, how much money they've got, what color they are, what religion they are. And I don't hold grudges anymore. I'm too old. I found that it doesn't work very well, except to make the guy that has the grudge the one who's is in the stew most of the time mentally. I'm trying to understand what forgiveness means, to tell you the truth. And I'm hoping to figure it out before I go away. So that's how I feel about this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Nicolason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and there weren't any other volunteers to discuss. This is a real difficult decision because I don't like it. I'm not going to go there. It's problematic in many respects. I don't like being the morality police, but I know that the zoning doesn't prohibit it. And I know that under Wyoming statute, we cannot issue, renew, or allow the transfer of a license if we find, as the licensing authority, from evidence presented at the hearing, the welfare of the people residing in the vicinity of the proposed license or permit premises shall be adversely and seriously affected. And the other one I think that is relevant, the desires of the residents of the county, city, or town will not be met or satisfied by the issuance, renewal, or transfer of the license or permit. We've heard evidence, I think, on both sides of those two issues that come from our statute. I think that we can make suppositions and inferences and all day long about ownership, but I haven't heard anything other than Tony's going to manage this because he's got the background to do so, and Jess is the owner. I don't have evidence that indicates that he is an owner. So I didn't find that part of the application was defective. We heard from Tony and I believe Jess that they have agreed that Sonny Pilcher's not going to be involved in this now or forever, and that they're not going to operate a strip club, and that they'll give up the license if either of those things actually happen. So I think this is hard. I think that we have to believe that sometimes people can turn things around and disassociate themselves with others. I think that another thing on the testimony that we heard was that there really are some people that have had a long litigious history with Mr. Pilcher. Well, that's not entirely relevant to me in this case. So anyway, those are my comments for now, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Milne.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, try and follow up behind two lawyers. I'll be brief. Commissioner Nicolauson's correct. This is a difficult approval for a variety of reasons. This is one of those cases where what we may believe conflicts with what we believe. So we have to look at the facts that have been presented and weigh each one of them and decide on the basis of those that what is relevant, what is not relevant, and to move forward. This is not an easy decision on this one, guys. Some of you are going to be happy and some of you are going to be not so happy. But we're going to do something.
Commissioner North.
Guess it's my turn. The fact that I don't think anybody wants a strip club in that location. I personally have heard from business owners up there in that area that have told me individually that if that happens, they'll pack up and move. They don't want any part of that. Now, those individuals aren't here tonight to speak about that, but when you start talking about that sort of thing, and yeah, it's legal to have that in that area, but nobody wants that in that area. And that's something that everybody, I think everybody that's talked about this against it, that's what you don't want. It's not that you don't want a new restaurant. I mean, if that's all it turns out to be, that's one thing. But if we do approve this with stipulations, and it has to be with stipulations, strong stipulations, and they have to be the fact that that is not going to happen in that area. That's not going to happen in that facility. And right along with that, we've been told specifically what type of dress they're planning on having. And I think that needs to be also very well outlined in that and signed off on and with an affidavit saying that if you do this, if you change this and you do anything to the contrary of this, that you do lose your liquor license. And I think that's what I'm hearing is that's that concern. Nobody wants, they don't want drugs. They don't want a lot of the stuff that goes along with those type of locales, I guess is probably the easiest way to put it. And neither do we. There's nobody up here on this table, this bench that wants that. But that's the only way that I could even agree to doing something is if we have that in writing saying, you're going to lose your license. You're going to lose your liquor license. Tony has said that if he doesn't have that liquor license, he's out of business. So basically what he's doing is he's promising us in writing saying that if I do this, I'm going out of business. That's the only way that I would agree in any form or fashion, and I'm not going to agree to anything until I see that in writing. It's got to be in and signed off, and that's my personal feeling on that. So that's got to be part of the stipulation. That's the only way that I will agree to this.
Well, my 2 cents in this whole thing is, first of all, it's not illegal to have a gentleman's club, strip joint, Hooters, Twin Peaks. It's not illegal as long as it's run properly. So nobody up here is being the moral police. Where the problem comes in, and Suddy came to my office 2 days after the last meeting took place here, and we sat down and talked about these things. He asked me, is it illegal to have a strip joint? No, it's not. Where the problem comes in, and I referred him back to an article that he was a part of several years ago, and mentioned that a criminal organization was the one that supplied the dancers to his club. Right after I said that, he told me that it still happens to this day. And it happens from, they control everything from Colorado all the way up to Canada. Well, that's criminal enterprise. And so if you're going to be involved in that business, you're going to have a criminal element involved. No, we're not going to stand behind that. What I heard tonight was that Tony twice stood up here and said that he is an owner of that business. If he's an owner of the business, it strictly says within the application to the Wyoming Department of Liquor that your name will be on this application, and it's not. So this is not a complete application in my mind, and it should not be approved.
May I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Laird.
I think that it may require that amendment to the motion. I think that the intent that I'm listening to is that if these documents are signed, if the application is amended, and they've allowed amendments, that's proper, allow an amendment. And I got the impression from Tony that he thought certain things, and I can always tell in here when people haven't deciphered the legal morass, and I never blame them because they're not lawyers. But all of these things can be amended, and to satisfy Commissioner North, I think that the only way I would vote on this is if they sign the documents and the liquor license is amended. So they would have to do that. And if we vote, it should be the approval of getting them the license is subject to them clearing up these little technicalities that are out there. So as a point of order, I don't know what we have to do. If I wanted to amend the motion to approve that was made by Mr. Nicolation, that would contain those stipulations that they've agreed to of their own free will. We're not forcing them to sign any of that stuff. It's their own free will to do that. If they sign it, then I believe that that takes care of my objection. So that's, I'm just stating that.
Are you making a motion to amend that?
If it's agreeable to Mr. Nicolation to have his motion amended, yes.
I think procedurally, as a point of order, I think that you would make the motion to amend, and then that would be seconded, and we'd clarify, because my motion originally did not have those conditions
Right.
and foregoing the license as a part. That was part of my discussion, but, so I think we just need to move with the amendment.
Well, I would move to amend to contain the stipulations that have to be met, that we've discussed here tonight and what they've agreed to. It's very important. It's their idea and they're agreeing to it. And so that would be my motion.
So would you make a clear motion for us, just so we understand? Just to say you're going to make it?
Do you expect a lawyer to do that?
Yeah, kind of.
See what I have to go through?
Oh, I know it.
I move that the motion to approve the license be amended, and that the amendments be that the stipulations that the McMillans have agreed to, where they said they would sign it and have it notarized, be prepared for them to sign, so that we know that we like the wording, and that then we approve the license. And I think all that could be done tonight. That we approve the license subject to those conditions.
Mr.
You're frowning. Could you, Jim, you're the senior partner up here. Could you come up with a shorter version?
If you're going to amend it, you need to be specific as to what conditions.
And Mr. Chair, if it's amended to add another owner, it probably needs to go through the process and have the notice and the public hearing for those owners.
What did the statute say, Madam County Attorney, about when someone when it changes during the middle of the year, where somebody has to then, who's acquired a larger portion, they just have to come down and file something, don't they?
I believe that's correct. They have to give notice once the
Okay.
license
Well,
has
we have to
been
follow the
issued.
law here, so we would, I'm trying to think of the procedure now. Well, no, you can table it. Well, the issue is also, he doesn't have to have his name on there, does he? She's the sole owner.
If I heard this testimony correct, and I'm sure I did twice, Tony stood right up here and said he is owner he is part owner of this, along with her. I know what the document says. It says she owns 100%. He just stood right there and said he's part owner of it, which means you need to go back through this process and do this properly. The state of Wyoming is not going to say King's
No, I agree.
Make
So
an
let's-
amendment. You have to do it properly.
So should this be tabled and pending him signing the documents he needs to sign, getting it in order, and then having another hearing, I guess, huh?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Nicolason.
Can Tony be invited to come up here and explain whether he's an owner or a member of the applicant Tavin LLC?
Mr. McMillan?
Yes, sir. Technically, I'm not an owner.
Okay, so
I mean, that's how we, like I was saying earlier, last year, that's how we set up the LLC. Everything was put into my wife's name. Therefore, all the legal documentation that we turned in was all done in her name.
And that was your intent?
I'm sorry?
That was your intent?
I didn't know there was anything wrong with doing it that way. Like I said, I just wanted to make it as easy when we first set
There
this
isn't anything wrong
up.
with doing it that way, but when you say you're the owner, people are coming up here telling us, your friends come up and say you're the owner, you know, it's like, I used to say I owned my dad's Cadillac, but I really didn't, and they all knew that, you know?
I think it's, you know, I guess they would be more assumption, seeing as how Jessie is my wife,
I get it.
you know. But, I mean, honestly, I can't wait another 2 weeks. I've got $41,000 out. I've got to start generating some revenue at some point.
So you're saying you're not an owner?
I'm not an owner. But I will say, you know, obviously, being my wife, when we do our income tax return, it's a joint return, so.
Yeah, I understand that.
Just,
I understand that.
okay, thank you.
One more question while you're up here.
Yes, sir.
We've talked about these conditions, including foregoing or, letting go of that this liquor license. Do you think those are reasonable conditions based upon the evidence we have?
Are you talking the stipulations?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Miller.
So my question is, if you're not the owner, how can you agree to stipulations to a business that you don't own? We need to hear from your wife that.
Okay, I can call her up, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
So.
I'm sorry, she's nervous, you guys.
No, it's
I'm
it's
sorry.
fine. You heard all the conditions and stipulations that your husband agreed to, right?
Yes, sir.
Any of those a problem for you? Do you
No, sir.
agree that they are, reasonable?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're
Commissioner North.
Okay, one thing I just want to clarify. The description of the uniforms and what you're going to wear, as I want it on the record. So tell me very specifically what you're planning on having your waitresses, your bartenders and stuff like that wear.
So like black mini skirts or like spandex short shorts and like a referee top, like a low-cut referee top is the plan.
And if I remember right, if they wear mini skirts, they're going to wear something underneath it, correct?
Yes, sir. I hope so. I don't want to see that.
Well, that's what you said last time around, so I want to make sure that that's on the record.
Yeah, like Spanx or something.
So that it's, I can't remember what you called them, but there was something.
Booty shorts.
Yeah, okay. So, and I'm assuming those are going to cover everything that needs to be covered. Okay. That's part of the one thing that I want to make sure that when we get, if we have a signed affidavit saying that that's going to be the case and that's part of the condition of you getting a liquor license, that's upheld very strictly.
Yes, sir.
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman. I'm not part of the, this is for my wife. I'm not for the clothing police for women either.
Commissioner Milne.
At this point, what was the amendment again?
I don't think we have actually got an amendment. We're trying to figure out, there'll be stipulations placed on it. The amendment's coming from Commissioner Laird. We just need to specify what those stipulations are going to be.
My understanding is the stipulations are going to be that it's not going to be a strip club, and that they agree that Mr. Pilcher doesn't own any of this property or license or business. And that the clothing that they're going to wear is what she's described. But again, I'm not going to go out and measure anything. Did I forget anything, Mr. Milne?
So what I'm,
If they start stripping, they have to sign that here.
so a question to our legal, right now the stipulations that are being proposed would be that it's not a strip joint or a gentleman's club, that Mr. Pilcher is not owner of, works in, or a part of the business whatsoever, nor will he be during the term of the license. And honestly, in my opinion, you can give your legal opinion on this. I don't know that we have the right to overstep the bounds to tell them what type of clothing they wear, but I would like a legal opinion on that.
We'll sign voluntarily. Also, our outfits are nothing I wouldn't be okay wearing.
Mr. Chair, it might not be unreasonable to have some sort of restrictions on the clothing.
And I want to make it perfectly clear, this is their idea. We're not forcing them to do this. This is what they've said that they're willing to show us from the last hearing to this hearing. Because I think it's a wise move on your part in front of all these people, because nobody wants the kind of bar that Rax used to be in this town. And so these are our constituents. When you said you'd sign them, I thought, okay, this is a decent young couple and they deserve a chance. But you got to know, we've got an ex-deputy sheriff, an ex-captain of the police department, and these people understand when somebody gives them their word, what that means to them.
Yes, sir.
As well as do I. And a former fire chief and 2 lawyers. This is quite a commission, you know.
So an amendment to the original has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner North. Any further discussion or further amendments?
Pardon me?
Any further discussion or further amendments?
No, call for the question.
On the amendment itself, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed. On the original to pass, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I'll stand opposed. So it passes with 4. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
But you can't open till this gets signed
Yes, sir.
and everything gets done. You can't order any booze or anything.
So we need to have this.
To get this done.
We'll get, our legal will get with you, and they'll, between the two of you, we'll get it drawn up so you can, everything can be signed off on, and then it'll be given to you at that point in time.
Okay, thank you.
So, Charmaine, do we have an idea of when?
What's today? Tuesday? Sometime this week. By the end of the week, we'll have something drawn up.
Is that sufficient by Friday if we have something drawn up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, don't let us down.
Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Anybody that has, from the public that has comments, please approach the lectern. And we'll keep this at 5 minutes, so.
You're no fun at all today.
Rosemary Saban, 9460 West Zero Road. I want to say you have my deepest sympathies for the decision you just had to make. So I know you're capable of doing the right thing and considering the people. However, on other matters, to ask the commission whom they are working for seems like quite a contradiction. For working would imply that more than maybe 2 of you has worked honestly a single day of your life. So I will ask you all a $12 million plus question. Exactly who do you represent?
Do you want to ask me and everybody here?
Everybody.
I represent the people sitting out here. I represent all the people who aren't here that
Okay.
were born and raised in Natrona County.
You're not giving us the appearance that it's the people when you continue to increase costs for us. It is and was a well-known fact that property taxes would increase again this year, and yet raises were approved. An illegally adopted land use plan was adopted and has yet to be nullified by our current commission. None but one is innocent of its adoption and continuance because 2 of you voted to pass it, and 2 others were present the night of December 20th, when more than 100 people turned out with not one person speaking in favor. I reiterate that the job of correcting it has not been done to the people's satisfaction. $880,000 was subsidized to Delta SkyWest at a public meeting without the allowance of public comment in that matter. It was said that they would not be utilizing the entire allocation if it was not needed. The first quarter statement was signed and approved for more than half the total amount, $441,000. Additionally, they are asking the city of Casper for $50,000 more. It took an appearance and request from the people to get the commission to approve additional funds for county road and bridge for snow removal in rural areas of the county greatly impacted this last winter. Wyoming Senate File 19 gives authority to the county to imitate the Wyoming property tax refund at a local level. 4 counties are currently implementing this: Converse, Lincoln, Sublette, and Teton. Not Natrona County, however. Instead, our commission concerns itself with the construction of a new library that in fact has been voted down repeatedly by the people. Even though a computer extension would be less expensive, less disruptive to the elderly, more than adequate, and would promote reuse and positive expansion if it was in the county health building as previously stated to deaf ears. Hearing is passive, listening is active. And as I said, I have serious doubts about your work ethic. Now, along with the mayor of Casper, some bodies are seeking to codify the current optional 1-cent tax, then push for a 6th. You absolutely are a bunch of self-serving walk-behinders who have no honor in keeping your word to the people you swore to represent.
Wow.
She's getting better, isn't she?
Bruce Lamberson, 2449 Hogadon Road. Oh, so don't break it. One or the other. All right, thank you. You guys are doing a great job. That's all I can. You put your name on the ballot. That's your fault. But I'm happy you're sitting here and you're doing a great job. I just want to say that because you've had some tough stuff and you guys are making decisions and doing what's right. Suggestion and a comment. I'll try and make this. Comment. I sat through the work session. Was that presentation from Natrona County Weed and Pest refreshing and delightful or not? I mean, holy moly. We all deserve that. That was wonderful. So, those guys are working hard for the county, and obviously that makes your job easier, and I needed to see that. And I've known Jason and Brian for a long time. I've worked with them. They're great guys. So I thought, man, thank you. That was nice. And thank you guys. So I'm walking back to work. I'm thinking, so why's the Natrona County Weed and Pest got it together? And they clearly do. And I thought about that. And I thought, boy, well, first of all, they have a board of directors that's dedicated, knowledgeable, really involved. They have staff that's educated, has experience in what they're doing. And as we say around my shop, they're learn-it-alls, they're not know-it-alls. And I've watched Brian develop for a long, long time, and the techniques they've come up with, and their ability to adapt and serve this community is really quite wonderful. And then I find out, I said to Conley, when you retiring anyway? He says, next December. Oh, then what? That's not something I want to hear. They said, no, we got it. We've already hired his replacement, and he's training right now. I'm going, man, who could ask for more? And I thought, that's a model for what maybe could happen in some other departments in the county and make your job a lot easier, and future commissioners. And just that depth of knowledge and the professional presentation and the work they're doing it's a no-brainer and it's delightful. But why? Keep an eye on that stuff because they've nailed it, and they're looking to the future to keep that effective. So what a great bunch and good for all of us. Suggestion, wayfinding. Okay, I've been through that wayfinding thing since day one when RDG came to town and Brian Peterson was up there, or Ryan Peterson from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I think he was living at the time, moving from Iowa. We rode mountain bikes, we looked at trails, we described things. And then I was involved, whether it's wayfinding or kiosks, I want them to look nice, don't get me wrong. But the words on those things are what count to me. And when we looked at the content of the provisional application or the suggestions and the contract for these wayfinding signs, it was a mess. It was stuff that YDOT wouldn't allow on any of their right-of-ways. It was improper. It was just off the chart. So Brooke said, get a subcommittee together, and we did, and a bunch of citizens who know the mountain, know what's going on, got together and really worked on this thing. It took about 4 meetings. We got some signs that say what they should and are placed where they should be and things like that. But that was a big boat we had to turn around. And then, of course, we don't have a bid and this and that, but whatever. Now we have road construction and all these other things. So, but what I'm going to suggest here is people ask me because they knew I was involved, what's wayfinding? What's wayfinding? The simplest answer is it's street signs. It's street signs. Green, white letters. We have none of those on the mountain. And we have a department, Road and Bridge, that this is their responsibility, and we have sign shops, and we could do this. And I don't want to hear about too much snow and this and that and everything else. The only street signs on that mountain are the ones, they're green with white, that are required by the subdivision rules. So if you poke around up there, you get way off the county roads, and there's a street sign. They're all over, because the developers are required to do that. Does that
If you're on a county road, like Micro Road, Hogadon Road, Casper Mountain, my up, okay,
Time's up.
no signs.
But this, I'll wrap it up. Christie, your planner, knows a lot of addresses up there, which they assign, are on roads called Casper Mountain Road, where the name of the road is Circle Drive. So we don't even have the road's right name. So that's kind of low-hanging fruit, and it would serve the wayfinding function just to know what road you're on. And I think that's maybe where we should be going, and that could happen quickly. And, but there's a lot of work to do there. So, but it's a cheap project. It's not 80,000 or 100,000 or whatever. Street signs, and the right ones.
Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Matt Keating, 2050 Bel Air. Madam Attorney, how are you? Good. A few short months ago, property taxes were certainly a hot topic. I don't think any of us have forgotten that. And the assessor just recently mailed their values, and for most people, the values are up. The state has once again funded the Property Tax Relief Fund program, and that last year they funded, they gave $3 million to the program. They only expended $1.1 million. For a few years now, this commission and previous commissions have had the authority to implement a property tax refund program at the county level. This year, as it's already been stated once tonight, Sublette, Lincoln, Teton County, and potentially Albany County commissioners are providing tax relief to their property tax payers in their counties. Per state statute, every commission approves their tax levy, their tax mill, by the first Monday in August. Last year, the commission that was in place then approved the max tax that they could per state statute, which means that this commission will be receiving $4.6 million more in revenue from the local and state assessed. If this commission were to decide to provide property tax relief to county taxpayers, the rules are, the state statute says that this commission would promulgate the rules, but you don't have to do it alone. You could look to Converse County Commissioners, just a few miles to the east. They're implementing the program, and how do they put it in? The Department of Revenue's applications have a deadline of June 5th. So hopefully, quickly, soon thereafter, they would be able to provide this commission with the cost of the program to Natrona County taxpayers. And you guys could implement the program, give the tax relief, and have it implemented and finished per state statute, which is mandated by September 1st. For example, I ran into a friend of mine just a few days ago. She's my age. She was dropping her 66-year-old husband off at chemo, and I told her about the program. She wasn't aware of it. And this is just the state program. And she just said that it would just mean a lot to her, and it would just certainly be a big help. And I appreciate your time, and thanks for your consideration.
Thanks, man.
Matt, got a question for you. Don't
Yes,
run
sir.
off yet.
Go ahead, Dave.
So what are the restrictions on that? Because I know that's something that everybody is not going to be available to. You know, there are certain restrictions to that as far as who can get it and who can't. So I just wanted to make sure that we covered that. So can you give me
absolutely.
a
I
short
certainly can.
synopsis of that?
Yeah, so, I'm sorry?
They're not bad at all, are they not?
So last year, the percentage was 75% of the median household income for that county. This year, it's 125% of the median household income for your county. You can use the state's number if the state's number is higher. Natrona County's number is 86,400. Somebody that has $150,000 in value per person, per adult in the household. So a married couple, if they exceed $300,000 per that household, they would not qualify. So if they're running cattle or whatever.
And that's in value. That's what they're asking.
In value,
for.
but that,
So if
but
they
that
have,
number.
if their assets, if they have a house that's worth more than,
No, just assets. That the house and one car per adult is not counted in that amount. The tax relief shall not exceed 75% of the property tax bill. But it's easy to find out. It's easy to contact the Department of Revenue. It's easy enough to just walk down the hall downstairs to the treasurer's office, get an application, talk to our treasurer downstairs, call the Department of Revenue, and find out if you qualify or not. I mean, I was literally, Dave, coming here tonight and helped an elderly lady unhook her camper from her truck, and I told her about the program. She didn't know, but she's very grateful. People like my mom and others are going to be able to take advantage of this program, and it's going to be just a tremendous help because property taxes continue to just go up and up and up, and these people are really the weakest in our community, and I, for one, to be truly grateful if you guys would consider the program. Any other questions?
Did you promote this program to the commissioners last year?
Yes, sir, I did.
And why didn't that get done?
Sir, I can't legislate discretion. I'm not sure the state can, or you or I. Honestly, I don't know. I also advocated that they just lower the tax rate.
The mill levy?
Mill levy is a tax rate.
Yes.
Correct.
So Commissioner North says that if we lower the mill levy, I don't know by how many points, we lose some.
If you're not back.
No, look, Mr. Commissioner Laird, I don't mean to interrupt you, sir.
That's all right. Go ahead.
It's true that it's not a large amount, so I'm grateful to say and to have the state, providing property tax relief because it targets those people that we really want to reach, right? And so that's why a few years ago, the legislature passed Senate File 19, giving each commission the authority to implement that state program, imitating the state program and implementing it at the county level. So why didn't the commission last year? Sir, I don't know. But what I do know is you guys have the authority and the power and I think potentially the funding to get it done.
So do you have any knowledge of why the state legislature didn't put a cap on the taxes? I think you kind of promoted that, didn't you?
Well, sir, I don't know. What I do know is the legislature came out with, I think, 2 different bills. I think they're going to separate out residential and to be taxed separately. It's going to be a steep hill to climb because it's going to take a constitutional challenge. And they're also looking at acquisition values, which is, either one I would vote for. But each one of those is definitely a conversation. Each one of those comes with baggage itself, right? But to talk about other programs or why the legislature didn't get anything more done or anything more specific, I can't answer that. But I would say, sir, that it's a distraction, and I'm hoping that this commission would implement a program.
Here's my
that they
point.
can't
Here's
today.
my point for asking.
Yes, sir.
My point for asking this is because you know that the legislature is the body that are the ones that have the ability to lower the tax rate. You know that, right?
Well, I also know that you do.
Well, I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
But you campaigned yourself on the idea that it had to be a legislative change, and you were trying to get the legislature to adopt something that said that they couldn't raise taxes more than 3%. You had it on all your billboards.
Correct.
So all I want is our public to know who is in charge of lowering the taxes and which taxes. So when you say we're in charge, yes, we're in charge of lowering the mill rate.
You are.
And we're in charge of enabling that statute that was passed to help people who were, shall we say, financially challenged.
Correct.
And so we have that ability,
Yes,
right?
sir. You do.
So what ability does the assessor have to lower taxes?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none. Per state statute, the commissions approves their tax rate by the first Monday in August, and they also approve all the other tax rates. But to be honest with you guys are leaders in the community. If you would start a conversation, I think there's potential that you can get a movement across the board, to get those things adjusted. But that's hope in the future. But what we have today is a program that you guys can implement and truly help some folks.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. The last question I have to ask you
is there people in here who had their taxes raised this year? They're raising their hands. So who is responsible for that tax raise?
Well, according to the program that's honestly in place, per state statute, it is set, values are to be set to fair market value.
Who sets that? Who says that?
Well, it's mass appraisal. It is a complicated process, but the assessor sets those within certain parameters required by the State Board of Equalization, and there's oversight by the Department of Revenue.
I just wanted to make sure that you weren't trying to let these people know that the commissioners caused this tax raise that they're all upset about.
No, sir, I'm not trying to mislead anybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Good evening again.
Could we get your name and address?
Yes, I'm sorry.
please?
John Hatcher, 4496 Fitzhugh.
Thanks.
I'd like to comment tonight on behalf of the Alcova Trailer Park Board and information that you need to be brought to light. I was here a few weeks ago and talked to you guys, and there's some other things that have come forward that I thought I'd bring to you guys tonight. First, I'd like to express the trailer court Alcova is set at a higher standard over any other trailer court in the state or in the region. These standards have been set at a point of being ridiculous. HOA standards with no benefits to the trailer court has never been happened. For example, you have to get pre-approved to paint your trailer or stain your deck. Lease agreements that get converted to a permit with no notification whatsoever. How does this happen? In the past, there was a task force included the trailer court to help out with plans and what everyone thought the trailer court should be and look like. You can ask any trailer owner in that trailer court, and the response would be the same. They want the trailer court to thrive and be beautiful. The lottery system is another area of concern. Other trailer courts around the region use realtors and sell on their own. Another trailer court provides a list of 100 people to possibly purchase a trailer and do not have to remove it if it does not sell in that year. We've been labeled as a quasi-private, and former park directors have said this. The trailer court does not have a gate at the entrance to close off and keep people out. There's no documentation that we have found that money cannot be spent for improvements inside the trailer court. If there is, we'd like to be that provided to us. The Parks Director, Michael Brown, told a trailer park board member this year that the homeowners should be responsible for the road improvements. This could happen if we had the same private entity that the ski club and the Casper Boat Club have. But we don't. Water lines and sewer lines need desperate attention and updated, as well as the sidewalks and the roads. There are cost-sharing incentives with the federal government to help offset these costs. The additional charge of a water overage appeared on our bill again this year, as it did last year. There's no meters on the trailers, so why did the trailer court get charged for it? The water tower does not only feed the trailer court, it feeds campsites that are being used for the camping, and fees reflect the charge as well. Why does the trailer court always get the fees and no one else? The trailer court is sick and tired of being the ones that fund projects and receive no improvements. Parks Director Michael Brown is a ski club member, and no price increases have been imposed in the ski club. The majority of the trailers have lakefront and boat docks in front of their trailers. The ski club reaps the benefits with no price increases. The trailer court has had their rates raised year after year. When is this going to stop? There is a history of the price increase. In 2004, we paid $800. In 2007, it went to $2,000. And then we had an appraisal, and now we're paying over $3,000. The ski club has stayed at $1,200 in all these past years. I have a packet here that supports a lot of what I brought up tonight that I'd like to give to you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for your time. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? You said you had a packet for us?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I approach?
Sure.
This has pretty much what you said, Ben, documentation of what the lease have been, the agreements with BOR. Pretty much, I didn't make copies for everyone, because BOR, our board is just, is all just free volunteers, so it costs some money to you guys also. So.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing
Thank you.
The lake situation is really a tough one with the Bureau of Reclamation and the clause that the federal government has and cabin owners and the trailers, and it's not, we don't feel like we're getting value at those, the $3,000 and that kind of, those rates that the appraiser supposedly came up with. And so I feel for you, and you probably know that the first thing people say is it's an act of Congress that's going to be required, and I hope it's not that, but I don't have the answer for you. It's not right. People have put in a lot of money out there in those homes, and if we can do something, we will. But we'll look at your materials.
Yes, and then we also, as a board, is going to try to set up a meeting with the BOR, because there's been a lot of hearsay. People always tell us, well, it's the county's responsibility. That's what the BOR said. And then the BOR says, no, it's it. So as a board, we're going to try to get a meeting with them and try to figure out exactly, because it seems like we don't get a straight answer from the county or the Parks Board or from the BOR, but we just hear, we've never spoke with the BOR. So that is something we're going to try to get a meeting with them to find out exactly, so we can bring things to say whether or not what their stance is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Representative Bill Alamand. I represent House District 58. I live at 28033 Southeast State Road 259. I don't even know where I live anymore. We got a problem, guys. If you've been getting the phone calls I have on this property tax, we got to do something. I spent some time with the assessor today. She's right, there's not a whole lot she can do. She can work with us, but it's you folks and the people that I'm associated with are the only ones that can do something. I want to let you know a few laws. There was over 20 tax laws that went through the House and Senate this year, tax relief laws. I'm not going to bore you, but let me read you a few of them. House Bill 54, homestead exemption for primary residents, it died in committee, 2-7. Property tax exemption for elderly and veterans, that was a bill I sponsored. It died in committee, 2-7. Tax exemption on agricultural repairs, died in committee, 2-7. Property refund for rental properties, died in committee. Property tax holiday for everyone, died in committee, 2-7. Residential property classification, died in committee, 2-7. Tax holidays for schools, died in committee, 2-7. Creating property tax relief authority, died on the floor. Property tax mill levy adjustments, died in committee. Property tax limiting maximum taxable value increase, died on the floor. Residential property tax classification, died in committee, 2-7. I did have one bright spot, but I'm not finding it. But anyway, folks, if the people of this county want to change their property taxes and keep them under control, they're going to have to look at their county commissioners and their legislatures. And in the legislature, if they want it to pass, they're going to have to change some faces, a lot of them. Or things are going to be the same way. Just because you got an R behind your name does not mean that you're a Republican. Representative Tony Locks from here in Casper had a amendment to a tax relief bill that would put a cap of 3% on any taxes. That amendment failed on the House floor by another Natrona County legislator got up and said, this is a tax for the rich. The rich will benefit from this tax as much as the poor. And I pretty well say that that representative killed it. I have a constituent out here that I stopped to see on the way in here. She's 82 or 83 years old. She, 2 years ago, after feeding her horses in a snowstorm coming into her house, before she even got in, she had a stroke. She laid on the floor for 3 days. Her feet froze. She's now in a wheelchair. She can't pay her taxes. And you know what we're going to do with this little old lady who can take care of herself in her own house? In a couple of years, we're going to move her into a nursing home. We're going to take her property. We're going to sell it. It's not worth much. But we're going to sell it, and she's going to spend the rest of her life in that nursing home, and we're going to pay a whole lot more than if we gave her a refund. We've got to do something, folks. The people behind me are hurting. And you folks can do it, and if we get some new faces in the legislature, we can do it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner Laird.
Just a minute. I have a high degree of respect for you, sir. But what I want you to tell me right now is, what can I do right now? Because you were in the legislature, because I could look at you and say, why didn't you get those guys to do this?
We worked hard on it.
But you didn't get anything passed.
We did not get it passed.
So now here's what I'm going to do as a commissioner. I'm going to look at every option we have to, which was brought out by the former assessor, because I think that was a good idea. I thought it was a good idea last year. I don't know why that didn't get through the commission. But that probably would be something that would help this lady you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So now, what do you want me to do to go down there and get the legislative people that you work with to do something that you couldn't get done?
You need to show up and testify, for one thing.
I'll do that.
Something that, like this little lady I was talking about, she does not have a computer. The elderly are not going to get these forms, and the forms are in the assessor's office. I picked up a couple today.
Couldn't we mail them? Couldn't we do some sort of mass mailing?
Yeah, if we did something, I fought as hard as I could. I voted for every one of these tax relief bills.
How much is her tax that she can't pay, do you know?
Excuse me?
How much is her tax that she can't pay?
900. So you know she doesn't have much for property. It was 900 last year. I don't know what it is this year.
Did she pay last year?
Yes, sir, I believe she did. And these are estimates because the true, real numbers aren't out yet, but the taxes, property taxes statewide in 2022 were $98 million higher than they were in 2021. And that looks to me like there's $98 million that should go back to the people.
Well, I agree with you. Now,
Let's work in getting it back.
so maybe the five of us ought to run for the legislature and go down there and try to do it.
I think you should. Let's see, none of you is in my district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Well, let's stay with what's on track here. Judy Jones, 335 North 8 Mile. I was going to talk about the land use plan and that we still haven't fixed it after 5 months. And I got some from Dave North, his suggestions, and I still think that farm and ranch ought to be exempt from it like it has been for years. It's kind of funny that everybody's on the tax thing tonight, because that's exactly where my mind was at. I called Matt earlier tonight and I said, you know, I think you as the assessor at one time probably could explain it better than I could, so that's why Matt was here tonight. And then I spoke with Mr. Elliman, and I thought he would be the legislative side. So I think you guys understand where we're going on this. We do need to do a mass mailing, because there's a lot of elderly that do not have computers. I mean, granted, they got phones, but you don't get to print off a phone. And I think if, hell, there's what, 58,000 of us or so, or maybe a little more, send it out to the county residents, and they can fill it out. I mean, it wouldn't take 2 pages explaining how to fill out the form, and we could get this going. You guys have to adopt this. I mean, I am so proud of you right now. When I got in here tonight, I was going to rip you. But after watching you guys work together, and you work together so well tonight, especially on the liquor license, and I congratulate you for actually, you two, my favorite man, Mr. Peter Nicolason. I think you guys did really good, and I wanted to tell you that because you get a lot of people, you know, even I do it, yelling at you and ticking me off in other lanes and stuff, but you don't get enough encouragement, and I want to give you a little bit of that. I think you're on the right track. I think you guys are catching up fast. I think the restrictions on the liquor license was a wonderful idea, all four pieces of it, and I think you'll get it, and I don't think you're going to be sorry. I like to see young couples open up businesses because we have so many that are closing. I mean, you drive along Yellowstone and that's all you see is empty business, empty business, empty business. When Cooters was there and all of the manufacturing that we once had. I wanted to talk for a second here. Do I have a second? 2 minutes. All right, I better make it quick. I had, what's her name? Trish and her crew came out to my house and they measured my buildings and all of that stuff, and I told them, I said, nothing's changed since 1974. I haven't done anything outside. And they said, well, we need to do this, and they were in here a week or so before asking for another $5 million so that they could get their GIS system a little bit more. Well, I'm not into Big Brother, and I think Big Brother's had enough money coming out of my pocket to spy on me. You want to know what I got? Come over and see. Otherwise, I'm going to start putting nasty things on the top of my car for the GIS boys. I believe that's an invasion of your privacy. I think we have plenty of that going on in the country, and I think that's enough of it. So I wouldn't be giving her $5 million to spy on us anymore than they already do. I know what GIS is. I've went through this with Jason Gutierrez, and he gave me the whole, I sat down and watched it in the whole 9 bit. It's better than Google, and it's good enough for Natrona County. You don't need to see the fly on my butt. Thanks.
Thank you.
You shouldn't have been so mean to Matt.
Austin Wisroth, 3851 Otter. I just wanted to come up and just talk about the processes with the Casper cabins.
With the what? I didn't hear.
The Casper or the Alcova cabins, excuse me. I think there's just a lot of miscommunication going on, and there's no processes and procedures, and it just makes for a big mess. And then people start doing whatever they want, then they get upset, they get fined for it. Then some of us that are trying to do it properly, I mean, I've had 2 incidents where it's taken excessive amount of time. When I first became a cabin owner, I wanted to put in a deck, so I asked Michael Brown how to do that. He gave me that information, let's see here, on 5/5 of 21, and we put that in that year. So 6/23, I'm checking in, 7/6, I'm checking in with him. He's saying, hey, I've passed this on to the BOR. I just feel like nobody's on the same page and nobody wants to make a decision of how it should be done. And I don't have the answer. I just think that we all need to come together, the cabins, the Bureau, the Natrona County Road and Bridge, who's managing all that. Like, we need to come together and create a process so that things can be done in a timely manner. So that way they can be tracked, they can be regulated, because now we have like this shutdown of anybody wanting to do anything because they don't know where anybody's septic tanks are. They don't know where anybody's water tanks are because people are doing whatever they want. You know, on August 3rd of 2021, I started my septic tank journey to get that done, and we just got it buried yesterday. Just got it buried yesterday. So that has been through many emails, you know, back and forth, being like, hey, we need this, we didn't have that, okay, we'll get them that. Then it takes a month or two for them to make a decision on if they're missing anything. Then we come back and forth. So it just doesn't seem right. I mean, I've talked with Justin at the building department, and he seems like he makes decisions with everything that happens in town pretty dang quick because they have processes, they've done it many times. I just feel like we're missing that, and we need your help. We need your help getting everyone together to create that, so that way people will have a fast track to get stuff done on that land or sell it to the cabin owners, or I don't know, so that way it goes under the jurisdiction of Justin and the building department that everyone else gets to to deal with. So I just feel like it's become really complicated, and honestly, even through my journey and emails and trying to communicate through phone calls and everything, it's been, I won't even know how to like advise somebody else to go through what I did because it was all over the place. So we could use some help with that.
Austin, might I understand that your septic tank took from 2021 until now, so we're talking almost 2 years?
Correct.
And then on your deck, you started that also in 2021?
So yeah, the deck, we first started that process 5/5 of 21. That, I was given that permit the Monday after Labor Day. So it was like a week after Labor Day, so in September. Pretty much after we couldn't use it for the rest of the year. So
September 21?
Yep.
At the end of the season?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so that took 4 months from start to finish. And I feel like people tried doing their best, but there's no processes right now. So we could use some help, for sure.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Commissioner Nicholas.
Thanks for coming tonight. You know, I think that the contract that the county entered into with the Bureau of Reclamation was drafted completely in favor of the federal government. Surprise, surprise. I would love to figure out a way to streamline and get the county more authority or put it on the federal government. My preference would be that we can take care of our own governance locally rather than giving it to the federal government. But what I know occurs a lot is it gets shifted over to, or your application, and I don't know about yours specifically, but they go to the federal government, the BOR, and then there's a lot of back and forth between the county and the BOR, and you're sitting there not knowing anything other than it's getting delayed. So I'd love for folks to be able to get together with the BOR and try to figure out some sort of way, because it's a problem, and it's been a problem for the 20 years that my family's had a cabin out there. I don't have it,
sense,
but
yeah.
It's a mess. So anyway, thanks for coming tonight, and I think we should look into it.
That'd be great. Thank you. One last question. They sent out a questionnaire of who would be willing to purchase their property. Did we ever get any results on that? People that would be interested? Everyone I talked to was like in favor of purchasing their property, but we got that last year, and I never heard back from the
Purchasing
the property that your cabin is on.
the land itself?
Does anybody else know? Did you ever get that, Shannon? Or? I remember who sent that. I don't remember. Mike, do you know who sent that?
Yeah, so there was a letter from,
Michael, come up here.
Sir. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
there was a letter from Representative Cheney's office about interest, or somebody sent a letter to Representative Cheney's office about the interest in purchasing the cabin area property. Now, there would be several factors if that ever happened. I don't think the Bureau of Rec is interested. The land these cabins sit on is Bureau of Rec property, so it is federal property. So they're the landlord. We're the managing agent for the property, is kind of how that respect says. But yeah, this letter, I got a copy of it about a year ago that they were interested in going through that. That literally is an act of Congress to sell that property. And then those cabins would then have to fall under, subdivision rules and water wells and sewers and all of that, I believe is how that would have to happen if it was sold. But that's what I know about it.
Don't they follow under those rules right now, though? Sounds to me like we're getting septic tanks being put in or whatnot are being required to be put in.
No, it's purely voluntary to put a septic tank in if you want. The process includes the health department, the DEQ, the Bureau of Rec, and parks. And so I have a state agency and a federal agency involved as well. They have to meet certain parameters. The Bureau of Rec doesn't want to do non-standard type of items, so they don't want the DEQ to have to approve an exception to how they're typically buried. In that soil, there's a lot of bedrock, so you can't always bury them. So there has to be site investigations with the health department for trenching to see if a tank can go there, to see if there's a possibility for a leach field. So it is a slow process. As for the deck that was mentioned, that was a slow process. That was 2 months in to when I started the job. I found that under construction without a permit or approval. The Bureau of Rec stalled on approving that because it had already been started. It didn't meet it was 400 square feet, but he also had a patio, so it was over the square footage in the site modification guidelines. So we worked around that he screened in his patio, that became part of the cabin. He could keep his deck. So there's a lot of underlying little nuances to these projects out there. And when I hired on, I had 67 projects out there. Currently, I have about 13.
So not to put you on the spot, but why would it take 2 years to get a septic tank approved?
Because of where the original plan was, requirement for engineering stamps, the process of going back and forth, getting a DEQ to approve the tank because it was going to be partially buried, but they require it to be completely buried. The health department being on board to do a site investigation to find a suitable place for the tank. And actually, the tank is up on a hill, so he has to pump to the black tank from the cabin because that was the only viable place on the lot. That's what I recall. I mean, I can look in my file and give you more details, but.
I'll get with you. Let's look at that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, we'll go to commissioner comments. Commissioner Milne.
What a night. Unfortunately, my comments aren't going to be very short. I would like to thank everybody that's still here or is left that came out and did do public comments through the process. That's what it's all about, is giving your voice and moving things along. Sometimes it doesn't go the way we want it. Sometimes it does. We have to look at it per the rules, per the legislation, per statute, and move forward. During the work session, we had Helen Wolf come and shows the display, the small statue. She's donating a statue of a horse, little gal, and holding a sheep. It's quite the work. It's from Chris Neverow. It was great seeing her again and talking to her. It will take a little bit to get the base done. We haven't figured out how to pay for that quite yet. The Fair Board hasn't, I should say. But it's moving on, and it wasn't exactly expected for her to come to a meeting quite early as she did, but it is good seeing her, and it is what it is, and it worked out, and here we are with that. Somebody had a question for me the other day, and we finally got some results. Took a while, going through notes and everything. Talking about the county zoning. Question was asked about policies and goals. In Chapter 1, Section 2 of the resolution, the resolution, the original zoning, it was a rewrite. So we went through it and removed quite a bit. Some of the stuff wasn't agreed to, that we should have removed some of it. But this process began clear back in April of 2021. It was suggested that we remove that material as it was policies and goals within a regulatory document. So it was not included into the public draft resolution dated 9/1/22 or the Planning Commission hearing draft. The removal is noted in the assessment report dated 4/26/2021 in the Chapter 1 General Provisions Recommendations section. This recommendation was made as the goals and policies listed were found generally in the Natrona County Development Plan and is related to the duties of Natrona County Commissioners, which is located in the Commissioner's Handbook. Again, it was policies and goals within a regulatory document. This recommendation was made to incorporate these items by reference in Section 108, relationship to the 2016 Development Plan. The resulting effect is that if those goals and policies change in the future within that plan, they will remain consistent across both the plan and the resolution, the zoning resolution. When presented to the assessment board, or when presenting the assessment report with those recommendations for the update to the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Board of County Commissioners on 6/15, there was not a desire to keep those goals and policies in that section, nor was any direction received to keep these policies from either staff, steering committee, planning and zoning, or the Board of County Commissioners. So basically, if this commission wants to bring that section back, we can, as an amendment, reincorporate it into that section 102. With that being the intent and purpose, as those goals and policies do relate to the intent and purpose, right? It wasn't necessarily removed for any specific reason other than it's not a policy, not a goal. It's addressed elsewhere. We're trying to be nefarious or anything like that. It's just what happened. Just kind of following the whole goal of that entire rewrite to reduce, streamline it, simplify the county zoning. That's, in a nutshell, what we did. So I hope that answered that question out there. And with that, I'm done.
Commissioner Nicolason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I think that we did witness one of those instances where this commission is called on to make a tough decision and to do the balancing that I've already and always talked about, which is trying to let people live their lives and let this young couple go out and try and make a business go versus trying to protect the community to the extent that we're charged to do that, and clearly by statute on these liquor licenses we are. You know, so I think we made a good decision tonight, and I appreciated the applicant's willingness to really step up and live, you know, put their money where their mouths are in terms of these restrictions. I hope that we continue to have good showings at these meetings. I know that there are fewer people in the audience now than a few hours ago, but I really appreciate you guys sticking it out. I recognize a couple familiar faces. And then some of the other faces that are here at all the meetings, I always encourage you to reach out to me and call me. My cell phone's on the county website, and it always has been. I publicly asked Mrs. Jones to call me. And Rosemary, you're welcome to call me at any time, too. So if you have a question about why I'm doing what I'm doing or what my work ethic is, you ought to just call me. Because I'll tell you the way it is, and then you can make an informed decision. So anyway, thanks, Mr. Chairman. That's it.
Commissioner Laird.
Artificial intelligence is something this county is going to have to adopt. And it's probably something many of you may not be familiar with. But they're saying it'll put Google out of business. So I've been learning about it from some experts in Chicago from the standpoint of being a lawyer. And I can tell you a lot of the things we've talked about, our billing, our anything having to do with the problems out at the trailer court, all of it. Artificial intelligence will have that solved for us in moments. This one guru in that is a guy named Perry Marshall, who has written a lot of books that are Bibles for people that sell on the internet, which you do, you sell houses on the, or you at least list houses on the internet. He says that in 60 days, the people who are sellers on the internet will be out of business if they haven't adopted what they call AI, which is artificial intelligence. And I'm not a guy who can explain that to you. I'm going to try to get it explained to me this week. But for instance, for lawyers, it would be a deal where you would pose a legal question, and somehow it does all the work and gives you a memo and cites all the cases and finds all the arguments. And for a person, say, who is an oil and gas lawyer, it scans the document and finds the problems in the document for oil and gas drilling. Things that take hours to do by lawyers that can be done in seconds. It's here, you will hear about it. It's already been in the newspaper a little bit. Legal magazines are coming out with it. I've had a person who's gone to several schools about it, and it's mind-boggling. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. It isn't a joke. It's here, and it's something that if this commission can get a hold of, from what they tell me, what it does is, it's amazing. So, with that, I do appreciate you all coming out, and regardless whether you agree with us or not, we're absolutely trying our very best and putting in the time to do the best for our constituents. Because look, hey, we see you all the time. I talk to a lot of people every week, and I listen to them. I've lived here my whole life. just like Mr. Nicolason has, and the rest of the guys. You know, we're for the people. We're not for taxing people and hurting people with taxes. But it is a problem. Basically it's a threefold problem. It starts down at the legislature. We do have some powers to lower some taxes and help certain people. They didn't give us much. And this legislative session, they didn't pass anything that helped anybody to any extent. And the big key is, how do we fight inflation? How do we do that? How can, you know, my grandparents paid $2,500 for their house. I think the last time it sold, it was $300,000. It's called inflation. They couldn't pay these taxes. They died in the 70s. But they kept getting their house raised after they paid $2,500 and thought that that was all they had to do. I remember when my grandfather didn't think he could make the $30 a year payment on his taxes. It's all relative. And so we're not in favor of high taxes. We're against high taxes. We do know that we have to have some tax to be able to run a county. Pay Mike over there to clear the snow out when you get a heavy snowstorm that's bigger than anything you've had in 50 years. You know, could be worse next year even. This is Wyoming. So thanks for coming, folks.
Commissioner North.
I'll try to keep this short. First thing, I do want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. You know, we do listen, and a lot of times it's disconcerting when I hear that when people come here and they say your mind's already made up. When we're listening to what's being presented to us, and there's options that we have and options that we can look at, a lot of times we change our mind. We may have something, we may have an idea of which way we're going to vote on things when we come, you know, before the hearings start. But when we actually hear everything and we can analyze that and put it together, we try our best to make the best decision for the public. I think that was an example tonight. We did listen to the concerns of everybody, but I think the restrictions that were put on this liquor license, and they were self-imposed. You know, we didn't really ask for anything that wasn't volunteered right up front. And from the people that were speaking against it, that's what they wanted. You know, those were the restrictions that they wanted. And so I think that worked out well. If it doesn't, then we have the option of pulling that liquor license from them next year. So, but I do want to thank everybody for coming out. Road conditions out in the county are marginal in a lot of places. It's not because the road crews aren't out there working on them. It's because the conditions came off so fast, and the changes with the snow conditions and everything else. We're constantly getting calls and emails and everything else about places that need to be fixed. Be patient, please. Mike has over 800 miles of roads out there that he's got to get to, and you can't get them all overnight. It's going to take a little bit of time, so please be patient. If you live out in the county, we'll work on it. The road out to Pathfinder right now has got some pretty bad damage. With it warming up, if you're taking your boat out there, go slow. We don't want your boat on the side of the road bouncing around, so take it slow when you're going in there. Property taxes, yeah, mine went up like everybody else's did. Every piece of property that I had, the property taxes went up this year. So every one of us, you know, are in the same boat. We're looking at that. And we did. One of the things we talked about last year on this board, and I know there's new members now, but the legislators have got to get together and come up with a good plan. And the only way that they're going to do that is that you got to contact the ones that didn't support some of those changes this year and actually encourage them to support those changes next time around. So please feel free to do that. We encourage that. And the last thing I have tonight, we have a lot of boards This county has a whole lot of boards, and we have a lot of openings that are coming up in June this year. Please get online, take a look. If you're interested in sitting on one of those boards, please fill out an application, and that's the only way we can do it. But we need good people on those boards to fill them, because those are the ones that make a lot of the decisions for the county, and then they pass that on to us. So please do that. That's all I've got. Thanks.
I'll make mine quick. Tonight was a great debate that happened here, and we reached a decision after tabling and tabling and tabling, so I'm glad that we're done with that. And the only other thing I've got is College National Finals Rodeo is a month away, so second week of June for the entire week, so make sure you get out and get your tickets and enjoy the rodeo. That's all I've got, so with that,